Is the glass half
Join
full?
UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet
Without
Shane
what's not on the
Matthews
contaminants you worry
every
about most are
weekday
removed.
as he brings
Water's
you all
healthier,
you need to know
cleaner.
about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. It's Thursday. You know what that means? That means we have our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter Brent Beaird join us here in just a minute. If you never know what the text line is, the Titan our text line, it's 352-353-7465. You missed it in the World Series. Oklahoma buries Texas 8-3, and they go for their four-peat, and I believe their 8th or 9th national championship tonight. So it's probably going to happen, believe it or not. Also, there's some news out there that Danny Hurley from the UConn basketball program, their head coach, back-to-back champs, may be the next coach of your Los Angeles Lakers if you like them. I mean, the only reason I'd leave is because of NIL and transfer portal. So let's go to a guy who I don't think he's in the transfer portal yet, but he has a lot of NIL money rolling in.
Yeah,
that's our college football analyst, Brent Beaird, on the Titan Tomorrow hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. What's happening, Brent?
well, Shane, good morning. 2 magazines are in. I'll start with that, Lindy's and Athlon. Then the Lindy's National is in. The Lindy's SEC edition, which if you're an SEC fan is a must. It will be in, it's supposed to be in by the 10th, so that should be in this week. And then we'll have Phil Steele coming up a little bit later on. So, but again, as we march toward SEC Media Day in Dallas, we're still getting plenty of, man, this used to be a really dead time during the year, but it certainly is not anymore. So, but that is good for us because we have stuff to keep up with.
Yeah, I just totally forgot. You just mentioned SEC Media Days being in Dallas this year. Totally forgot about that. Another magazine that's out that we had Will Miles from Read and Reaction yesterday on. His magazine is out. You can get that on their website or at Amazon. 70 pages of the Mighty Gators. So
I've heard it's really good too.
Yeah,
I think he's done a good job on that.
Yeah, I asked him, I said, how can you write 70 pages on one team? That's got to be kind of difficult. But they did. All right, Brent. Well, first of all, kind of the hot topic out there that broke this morning or late last night, just your thoughts on the possibility of Danny Hurley leaving college basketball.
Well, I mean, he would be a loss for college basketball. He's a really good coach. What he's done at UConn is to develop a really good culture. Now, the reality is, can you do that with the Lakers? I mean, let's just be honest with this. This is LeBron's team. He basically is the owner and the coach. So is all that going to work? And we don't know. But if you're going to bring this guy in, you need to let him coach. Is what it amounts to. So does he? My issue is, Shane, is he trading one group of headaches for a bigger group of headaches?
Yeah, well, the headaches, he's got studs at UConn, but the headaches of the off the field nonsense with the portal and the NIL would be all you have to deal with. But boy, I don't know if I want any part of coaching the Lakers,
right?
Especially
right.
if they're going to force, as Andy says, with the Lakers draft Bronny and Dan help develop him. Look, nothing against that kid, but he is not very good.
No,
I don't know how else to put it. He is
true.
not very good. He would not have played for the Florida Gators basketball team last year.
No. Mm-mm. No. No. I know the NBA's own potential, but there are a lot of these guys, and Bronny's another one. They need to come back and get another year or two under their belt.
All right. John's question here, and I don't know where he saw this, and if I'm reading it correctly, on YouTube, brought to you by Quad Plum, says, "What do you and Brent think of Florida being in the preseason in the top 25?" We're not in the top 25.
Well,
We're like number 35.
Yeah, but no, there was one that came out yesterday, and that is the ESPN FPI preseason power rankings, and Florida is actually 20 in that. It just came out yesterday, so it's brand new. Is a reason a lot of people haven't seen it. So that's a little bit different take on Florida, which I'm glad to see someone have a little confidence in them. Look, they've got Auburn 19, they've got Florida 20. Frankly, I've got more confidence in Florida than I do Auburn at 19. And I'm sure there are a lot of different analytics to it that are involved with this. I mean, it's very similar to some of these other polls, but that's what it is. It's the ESPN FPI preseason power rankings. And by the way, Georgia's number one as usual.
Yeah, Joseph says here on Facebook Live, ESPN has Florida projected to finish 6-6 and inside the top 20. Interesting. All right, a couple questions here from some people on YouTube I want to get to before we jump into it. Barone71 says, QB, next time you speak with Will Miles, you should pick his brain on QB play. He literally thinks high school stats are the most important way to analyze QB play. I do not agree with that. Barone also says he thinks that the QBs typically can improve year to year and had an entire article dedicated to why not Max Brown, as he felt Brown should have started over Mertz. Max Brown, nothing against the kid. I don't know how he was at a Power 5 school personally. I don't know. Like I said, nothing against him, but I saw him 2 practices. I was like, this guy can't play at this level. Hope he has success at Charlotte, but not good enough to play big time football. All right, Brent. I guess the most recent news is we have broadcast groups or TV telecasts. Who's telecasting the first rounds and the second rounds and all that stuff of the playoffs?
Yes, that came out yesterday, as a matter of fact. So that's something now that people can take a look at. Now, TNT is involved with some of the first round games. I've got a noon game and a 4 game in the 8 o'clock game on the 21st. And that's when the start is December the 21st is ABC and ESPN. I believe that's a simulcast on that one. And then 10 days later, you've got a quarterfinal with the Fiesta Bowl. And then you've got several games on January the 1st. One of the good things about the way the playoff is structured is for people who enjoy January 1st football, you've not only got football, but you got football that counts as far as the playoffs. So in January 1, you've got a 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 9 o'clock game. And then you've got Thursday, January the 9th is when it picks up. I won't go into all of it, and then for Friday, then you got your national championship. That's January 9th, 10th, and the 20th. And again, your first round game, you've got a Friday night first round game. So that should be pretty exciting, to say the least. That's on December the 20th, a few days before Christmas. So that is your schedule and the who's going to be doing it. So the real new thing there would be TNT that we watched the college basketball tournament on will be having their share of games.
And hopefully they have Charles, Kenny, and Shaq doing the pregame and halftime of that first round game. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
So Brent, the also ESPN has come out with the best chances, the percentages of making the college football playoffs in 2024. You know, the thing that jumps out to me, and I'll let you go through it and then I'll make my comment.
Georgia's first Oregon is second. Oregon is really picking up some steam in people's mind. Texas is third. Ohio State fourth. Notre Dame fifth with this. Now, obviously, the percentages go down. Alabama is at 57%. Then it really separates with Missouri and Tennessee and Oklahoma and Florida State in the 30 percentile. Michigan, Clemson, LSU, Kansas, Kansas State, A&M, and Ole Miss in the 20 percentile. Now, Ole Miss, for whatever reason, the magazines really like Ole Miss. Pretty much everybody else likes Ole Miss, but this best chance to make the playoff, according to ESPN, Ole Miss is lower than they are in some of the other predictions.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up. They have, again, they go from Georgia at the most at 79%, all the way down to Ole Miss at 20%. There's 8 SEC teams ahead of Ole Miss in the percentage to make the playoffs, and most magazines have Ole Miss ranked 4th or 5th in America. That's what stood out to me the most.
Yeah. Well, so you've got LSU at 25%, then you've got the Ole Miss at 21%. Right now, you could make the argument Ole Miss is a better team than LSU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ole Miss's defense is certainly better than LSU. So, again, I'm sure this is one of those analytic things that, but I'm with you. I think Ole Miss is way too low in that.
Yeah. So just so the people know what I'm talking about here, you got Georgia, Alabama, Missouri, Tennessee, Oklahoma, LSU, and A&M all ahead in the percentile ahead of the Rebels. So interesting stuff there. All right, Brent, I want to get your thoughts. And we got a bunch of texts yesterday, and I got a bunch of texts in the Tightening Our Text Line overnight about the high school NIL. What's old Brent Beaird think about it?
Well, I have mixed emotions about it. I mean, I understand it to a degree, but it's got to be really regulated and restricted because it could be really ripe for problems. And this is important. I wanted to mention this off the bat. It is not effective immediately. The Department of Education's board would need to ratify the bylaw, and the board does not meet again until July 24th. So there's still a little bit of time before they go through all the hoops with this. I mean, the board was unanimous about it, and again, the main goal: athletes permitted to profit from their name, image, and likeness without placing their eligibility at risk. Again, there are restrictions. The students and their parents or guardians are responsible for negotiating the arrangements. Now, that makes some sense, but it also could be problematic. There are some penalties. If you violate the policies, there'll be a formal warning and the termination of the agreement, and the second offense will lead to a 1-year suspension. There will be no college-style NIL coming to high school. They're not going to allow that. And again, they're banning, obviously, adult entertainment, alcohol, tobacco, vaping, cannabis. These things you will not be allowed to do. Now, a couple of guys, Jamie French from Mandarin, he's a wide receiver, and Vernell Brown from Orlando have already inked deals with American Eagle.
What is that? Isn't that like a place in the mall, like a clothing company?
Well, maybe. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure what that is now, frankly, but I think you're right with that too. So, look, it's up and going. It's here. We thought it was. I mean, Georgia's got it. It's slowly going to many states. Now, I think what would help here would be it would teach some of these guys early on how to take care of themselves, how to be entrepreneurs. And look, I've talked to a lot of coaches, and I'll be brief about this, who they've got players that I'll never forget one coach from a local high school here told me that he had a player. He said, "I want you to get on our nutrition plan and be sure to eat well during the week." And then he said, "Coach, I really don't have anything in my refrigerator." And the coach went out and got them, from the goodness of his heart, a lot of groceries. So I can see some good things about it, some bad things about it. So right now, Shane, it's kind of a mixed bag, is it not?
Yeah, I'm totally against it, Brent. I think it's ridiculous. You just mentioned Vernell Brown Jr. and the other kid from Mandarin. I mean, what is the business getting out of that? I mean,
Yeah.
99.9% of the people in the world in America don't even know who those kids are.
No.
So I can understand in Baker County at the Chevrolet place there or whatever, if a kid
Mm-hmm.
wants to do a commercial or whatever, those kids, the community may know who he is. I don't know. I'm against the NIL. I've been against it since it started,
Yeah.
because it's not what it's intended to be.
Sure.
That's the problem.
I agree.
If it was what it was supposed to be, I'm all for it, but it's not. It's pay for play. All
Yeah.
right, Brent, John's question here on Facebook Live brought to you by Metal Law. Brent, do you think the conference championship becomes less valuable if Alabama and Georgia are playing in Atlanta? Meanwhile, Ole Miss is sitting at home resting, knowing they already made the playoffs. That could be a case with a lot of SEC teams.
Sure.
Texas could be playing Alabama. Texas could be playing Georgia. But you still want to try to win the Southeastern Conference.
Well, it means a lot to these coaches and players to have an SEC ring. There's no doubt about that. If you win your conference, it really does mean a lot. But to John's question and point, now we've taken away divisions. The two top teams will be playing in the playoff in the conference championship. But see, we've got a situation like Georgia and Alabama play in September. Georgia and Alabama could play for the SEC championship game, and then Alabama and Georgia could play in the playoffs. So I think that's a concern for a lot of people too. Is if they're going to play in the playoffs or the conference championship games, null and void almost. And look, people are going to raise the question. I get it. Well, why do we really have the conference championship games? Should we do away with them? Well, Shane and I have said for years, they're never going away because they make too much money. Look, the SEC makes, if people can Google this, they make an incredible amount of money on that championship game. And as long as that is going on, it's like the SEC baseball tournament, SEC basketball tournament. As long as they're making that kind of money, I think it'll be here forever.
Yeah, and there's no better sporting event in the country that's better than the SEC championship. You'll never convince me of that. Also, people forget too, there's a lot of bonuses, especially from a coaching standpoint, if you win the SEC title. Maybe NIL needs to implement that into their contracts for the players as well. Tony says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law, is the fear factor for Bama gone without Saban? I'm going to answer that first. And Brent, you're a Bama guy. You can answer it. Yes, because there's always that fear factor when the boys in the crimson helmets run out of the tunnel. I don't see it being there this year without Nick Saban.
Well, what I will say with that is I understand some of the fear factor being gone, but the reality is they're going to be really good. I mean, they have actually upgraded their football staff, and they needed that with Saban because some of the staff got stale, and they've got really good coaches that a lot of them people don't know about. Offensively, they're going to be terrific, frankly, under Kalen DeBoer. The question they've got is on defense. particularly in the secondary, but they've done a lot with the transfer portal for it to be better. So I'll answer it by saying I agree with Shane. Some of the fear factor is gone, but at the same time, the results on the field aren't going to change that much.
Right, right. No, I think he's a very good coach. I just know that, sometimes mentally, the opposing team was somewhat beat before the ball was even
Sure.
kicked.
Yeah.
Brent, the College Football Hall of Fame has announced their nominees as coaches and players.
This is always fun to watch, and I enjoy voting for it. Shane, how about these guys from the state of Florida? Alex Brown and Brad Culpepper from Florida, Ken Dorsey and Sean Taylor from Miami, and Darren Smith, and Peter Warwick and Sebastian Janikowski from FSU. That's a pretty good group, is it not? Nick Saban, speaking of, is eligible this year, so he would go in immediately. And, by the way, one Urban Meyer is eligible too. So both of them will get it. Now, there's still some really pretty good coaches here. Now, are they really Hall of Fame coaches would be the argument. I wonder about Shane, and I'm just asking this out loud. There's no right or wrong answer to this. Tommy Tuberville is eligible, who obviously now is in Congress. Ole Miss, Auburn, Texas Tech, Cincinnati. That's an interesting question. Tuberville is I think a good college football coach, had some real success, but is he Hall of Fame worthy? And I wonder about that.
No, I'm looking at the list here. My only guys that I would put that I would even think about on this list for coaches, there's only two, Saban and Meyer.
Right.
There's the only ones. And I was going to ask you, out of the list of the players from all three schools, the only one that I think has a chance of getting in is Peter Warwick.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Yes. Now there may be some others. This is like the Heisman Trophy in a lot of ways. There's a lot of regional bias with things like this because that's what they understand and what they know with that too. So, I mean, it's always a really good group. And Hall of Fame is, Michael Vick's up this year. Michael Orr, by the way, from the Blind Side. Ryan Leaf, Mark Ingram of Alabama. So, it's a good group. And look, when you're voting, you're almost flipping a coin sometimes. It's a hard decision with some of these guys.
Yeah, it is. Silverback concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. We got Brent Beaird, a college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, here on the Titan MR hotline. Let me, before we move on, let's get a couple of these. I saw a couple of really good questions I want to ask you, Brent, if I can pull them up here. Here's Van Dur's question on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law. Shane and Brent and the audience. Do we believe that a coach will ever be able to build a championship team using players that are developed from freshman to graduate, using his own seed corn? My Van Der, you may have a few players, but I don't think the days of that. I mean, with the transfer portal, it's just too many. There's too much turnover. For whatever reason, you may be developing a kid and he's a good player, but maybe he's not happy with the amount of money he's being paid. So he just goes into the transfer portal to go somewhere else. Your thoughts on that, Brent?
Well, unfortunately, the days of bringing in, Shane, 50 to 70 people in a cycle where you develop them from a freshman to a senior, unfortunately, those days are probably over. I'm not saying that you can't do that. Now, frankly, that's still what Clemson is trying to do with Dabo. Dabo doesn't like the portal. I get that. And he goes with basically high school players. Now, that still works if you can sprinkle in some transfers from the portal that really meet some needs. So I mean, it in today's world, I think you got to have both. And I don't know why Dabo was so stubborn with this. I've said for years now, look, you don't need to bring in 20 guys. All you need to bring in is like 5 or something like that at important areas where you need it. And if you did that, you're going to be in pretty good shape. But as far as the question is concerned, doing it just with high school players, Shane, that's really going to be hard to do from now on, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Brent, in a couple of weeks, the Sooners will be officially members of the Southeastern Conference, and they're having a damn carnival on campus.
Yeah, they're making a really big deal out of this. Your official date for Oklahoma and Texas to enter the league is July 1. Now, Shane, how ironic is it that in softball, Oklahoma and Texas are playing, and they're soon to be in the SEC? I'm sure the Big 12 folks aren't real happy about that, but that's what's happened. So give credit to both of them. But yes, Oklahoma is going to have a lot of different activities on their campus. I mean, they're going to have a 5K at 11. And imagine this. Now, Shane Matthews will be in bed by then, but they're having a 5K glow run. I guess this is when you glow in the dark at 11 o'clock. How about that? Can you picture yourself doing that? And I won't go into all of it, but safe to say that they're making a big deal out of it. They're going to have some, the dignitaries present, and I would imagine, I don't know if Greg Sankey's going to be there or not, but I'm sure there'll be somebody there from the SEC. So we'll talk more about it as it gets close. But as Shane said, it's basically going to be a launch party, is what they're calling it.
Yeah. Brent, a couple TV games that have been announced, and I'm sure people have heard it by now, but all my buddies back in the Magnolia State have been raising hell about this. Them switching the Ole Miss Mississippi State game, the Egg Bowl, to Black Friday along with Georgia Tech and Georgia.
Well, what Shane's talking about is most of our listeners and viewers know, the Egg Bowl has been Thanksgiving night. I mean, it's been a staple, frankly. But again, with all the changes we've got, it changes again. And we've got a doubleheader with the Egg Bowl at 3:30 on ABC. And then later that night, we've got Georgia Tech at Georgia at 7:30. Now, that's not much of a rivalry now by any means because Georgia always wins. But it's still just, with it being Georgia Tech, Georgia, it being on a Friday night, that's the thing that's different now than it has been. And Shane, did you notice this, that the number of Black Friday games are almost doubled this year? So TV is really taking advantage of what that they think are, okay, you've ate turkey and been with the family. It's the next day. You're eating leftovers. You're ready to watch games after Shane Matthews has gone out at 4 a.m. to the mall and come back. I'm being facetious here, of course. And then you're ready to watch football. So a lot more Black Friday games than they've ever had.
Yeah. John's question on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, says, isn't Florida State on Friday due to the ACC network? I think that was just a one-time deal, John. I don't think that's going to happen this year. Okay, so there's one more new rule in the transfer portal, Brent. And our man Cam Rising out at Utah has an 8th year to play if he wants it. I mean, could you imagine playing college football for 8 years? Yeah,
there was a Miami tight end that actually had the chance to have a 9th year, if you can believe that. I mean, at some point, you've almost got tenure like the professors, don't you? Now, what Shane's talking about here is the NCAA will grant an additional year of eligibility to any D1 student athlete who is ruled ineligible to compete for any part of a season during or since 2019 and 20, that academic year. And for example, it appears that Cam Rising could get an 8th year if he wants it. I mean, that's just bizarre, is it not? So, now the COVID, I'm pretty sure the COVID years are gone.
Yeah.
Now, so this is kind of a, I guess an exception to the exception. But yeah, Shane, could you? I know you loved it, but could you have imagined being in college 8 years?
I mean, that would be fun.
In a lot of ways, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine it. CertaPro of Gainesville is one of our new sponsors. I want to give them a shout out. CertaPro.com, CertaPro Painters of Gainesville. All right, Brent, let's go around the SEC briefly here. As we mentioned, Alabama has Nick Saban up for the College Football Hall of Fame, but they also got a big commitment from a QB.
Yeah, Keelan Russell is a 4-star quarterback. He was going to SMU, now he's going to Alabama. He took an official visit to Alabama over the weekend. Now, get this, Shane, I want to throw this out here too. There's a really good chance that this is going to be the first year since 06 and 07 that in the preseason rankings, which will probably mean the AP poll, that the Alabama basketball team will be ranked higher than the football team.
Yep, that's going to happen. That's guaranteed.
Yeah. The in 06 and 07, the football team was unranked. That matter of fact, 06 07 was the year before Saban came, frankly, and the basketball team was number 11. So the basketball team may be number 1. But we'll get into this later, but not only the Alabama basketball team, I think Florida is going to be really good, and it's going to be another really tremendous basketball year for the SEC.
Auburn, the one kid that was shot with his brother, what's the latest on that?
There was a report that came out last night that said he actually had some movement in some of his limbs. So that's good news. We're talking about Brian Batty. He's a running back at Auburn. He and his brother were in some kind of an altercation with another guy. And unfortunately, his brother was shot and killed. Batty was shot basically in the head. And he is trying to recover from that, obviously. That's a really difficult story to go through, but he is making some improvement, and thoughts and prayers go to he and for Auburn that will be a lot of improvement by the end of the summer.
Yeah, John says on Facebook Live, I'm willing to bet Florida basketball is ranked higher than Florida football also. That is a fact. I saw an early preseason basketball poll, and Florida was like 16 or 17. So, speaking of the Gators, before we get to the Gators, Clint on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Brent asks, Shane and Brent, we will be upsetting someone this year. Who do y'all think it will be? I will go first.
Okay.
As y'all have heard on my program here, I expect us to start the season 5-0. So I don't blame you. I don't think any of those will be upsets. But I think the 6th game is we travel to Neyland Stadium in Tennessee. I'm going to say we beat Tennessee again this year.
That would not be, I think that might be a real, now Ole Miss probably is going to be favored. Now this is a late November game. In fact, a lot of people think, and I tend to agree with this, that Ole Miss will be going to the playoffs. So I would probably say Ole Miss. That's a home game. Boy, that's going to be a great game in a chain in November. It should be pretty cool for that. So that should be a lot of fun. But I tell you, a big game early on is that A&M game. I know a lot with Miami, but that's going to be crucial, but easily one of the better Florida home schedules we've seen in a long time.
Yep, got to win your home games. That's simple.
Sure do.
Speaking of the Gators, Billy Napier picks up a big-time quarterback prospect, but they also lose a wide receiver.
Yeah, Will Griffin is the guy that they picked up. He's a top 100 prospect. Offers from just about everywhere, 6'3", 225. That's pretty good size. Tampa Jesuit has a good reputation, obviously, too. Joseph Abdullah is the decommit. He was in the 25 class, 5'11", 180 from Atlanta. He's got like 50-plus offers. But again, just because they decommit doesn't mean that Florida stops recruiting them, and there's also a chance for the guy to come back. So that's just kind of the way that recruiting is in this day and age.
Yeah, John asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, how many wins does the experience of Mertz get? I think he's the most experienced QB returning in the SEC. Yeah, he's got more starts than anybody, maybe in America.
Yeah.
As I've said multiple times, I think he's such a good player. Put the team on his shoulders. Put all the responsibility, go win games. By meaning, let's open up the playbook and let him go win and distribute the football to the playmakers.
Yeah.
I really firmly believe in that. Hopefully that will happen. Any news coming out of Georgia?
Now, we mentioned a few minutes ago of someone to tune in late. Georgia Tech is a Friday night game. They do have a commitment from Zayden Walker, who is a 5-star inside linebacker. They've had some pretty good inside linebackers, N'Kobe Dean, Small Munden, over the last little bit. Auburn is Georgia's homecoming opponent. This is almost hard to believe, but in the last 19 games against Auburn, Georgia is 16-3, and they're 9-1 in the last 10 in Athens. So what used to be a big rivalry is no longer.
Not at all. Not at all. All right, Brent, before we get you out here, ACC, any new news with the semis or the Hurricanes?
Well, my understanding is that what I've seen and heard is behind the scenes at FSU and the ACC are pretty. They're either in or close to mediation, which means, and we've talked about this now for months, that they're just basically talking about getting the money right, and obviously Florida State's trying to get a break on this $500 million, trying to get that down to what, 250, and then the ACC. And look, the ACC needs to be smart about this. Florida State's leaving. That's just the way it is, and they need to get some money out of this instead of having it go to court and get no money. So that's kind of where they are. Clemson also is in the process of leaving. They're not. Let's just say they're not at the pace, and they're not at the rate that FSU is right now. But that's coming. Also, a lot said about North Carolina, but they're not anywhere near the progress that FSU and Clemson has made at this point. How about this? For FSU, Mike Norvell, $150,000 bonus based on the new APR, the academic progress rate at Florida State. That's kind of amazing too. Let me see if this surprises you. Clemson this year is assured of a top 20 finish in football, men's basketball, and baseball in the same academic year for just the third time in their history. Shane, is that surprising? With their program, would you have thought that they would have done that more than they have?
Yeah, I think the one team that probably is caused some issues there would be basketball.
Yes.
because they're always going to
Yes.
be good in football, and they're usually pretty dang good in baseball. And it's hit or miss with their basketball program. But yeah, that is interesting for sure. Brent, we got a text here from Daryl on the Titan Mar text line. He says, Brent, have you talked to any high school coaches in the Jacksonville area about this new NIL rule? I think it's going to drive some coaches out.
Well, it very well may be. Now, see, another thing going on with this, too, Shane and I have talked about this a little bit, but there is also some legislation, and I don't know how far this is going to get, but there's some legislation about getting high school coaches more money for their stipend. And most folks know, they're astute enough to understand this. High school coaches in the state of Florida really get very little money. And that's a real shame, because a lot of these guys, I mean, they work 100 hours a week sometimes as a football coach. Now, other states, Georgia, I mean, some of the coaches there get six figures in a truck. And here, I mean, it's a paltry sum, frankly, and I hope they get it, because I think they deserve it. But I don't know if that's going to pass. Shane, I'm curious what you think about that. But this is involved too, and what I've heard from coaches, as much as anything, Daryl, is well, we try to get coaches raised for years. Could we deal with the coaches and then be able to deal with the NIL?
Yeah, agreed. Last thing I wanted to bring up, I saw Birmingham Southern. They lost in a walk-off. They lost in a walk-off home run, I believe.
Yes.
But what a run for them! Now, the school's shut down, so I
Right.
assume those kids that are playing sports there, they can just go wherever they want now.
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is so unusual. Frankly, Birmingham Southern was, I mean, they were a school for like nearly 150 years in Birmingham. It's a small school. It's a D3 school. But that was a great story about the school was closing, and these guys were still playing baseball. They lost to Wisconsin Whitewater 11-10, but they had a walk-off earlier too, and hopefully the head coach will get a job. These players will get somewhere. I mean, the head coach was interviewed the other day. I heard him, and he was very transparent about it. He said, "Yeah, the school closed because the president just made some really bad money decisions." So, which unfortunately is true. But that's the reality of it. Let me give you a little perspective here. The athletic, do you remember Joe Dean?
Oh yeah. His son,
you know,
wasn't his son the AD there?
Yeah, yes, that's what I'm getting at. Joe Dean Jr., who used to do, you remember when Joe Dean Jr. used to do SEC basketball?
He was the string music.
That's right. He was an analyst for SEC basketball. Well, both of them were, father and son. And to Shane's point, Joe Dean Jr. was the AD at Birmingham Southern. Now, they restructured a lot of things, and I think Joe ended up being I think he was a fundraiser is what it amounted to. But that's who was at Birmingham Southern for a while. So that's a shame to see, but it was a wonderful story while it lasted, and it really got the attention of almost everybody in the nation.
Yep. All right. We got one more text from Jimmy on the Titan Mar text line regarding Gator baseball. Brent, what can you tell us, or do you know anything about the kid from JU that has committed to the Gator baseball program?
He is a good player. As a matter of fact, Justin Naudoo, I may be mispronouncing that, batted .395 last season, stole 11 bases, and had a .003 OPS. So he was well thought of here. That's a good pickup, frankly. And listen to me, what Florida baseball and softball did in the postseason is really commendable. I tell you, Shane, as an SEC baseball fan, man, I didn't think Florida would be anywhere where they are now. But I mean, that is incredible for what they've done. and where they've gone. And I'm sure you've probably been on teams that really kind of grew up and matured later on in the season, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, getting it done late. And also, if people missed it, Gator Baseball picked up a commitment from infielder from Texas Tech,
Right.
Landon Stripling. Now, I believe he is draft eligible, so that means he could not ever make it to campus. So,
Right.
And then Liam Peterson will be pitching game 1 against Clemson. Big Jack will be starting game 2. And if people didn't hear about it, Jack's not even in the running now. They have 5 players up for the Golden Spikes Award, and he's not one of them. So,
well, forgive me here. What in the world is that about?
Well, it's probably like a lot of these people that vote for the Heisman, Brent, that don't watch the damn games.
They don't. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, he's batted .410, 48 walks, 31 home runs, 24 strikeouts, 5-2 as a pitcher in 67 innings. I mean, who else has done something like that? Come on.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Brent, great stuff as always. We appreciate your time. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week, my man.
You too, brother. Always enjoy it. Take care.
That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Take a quick time out, come back, got some stuff to get to. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union.
Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Our gridiron sponsors are UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker Sporting Goods. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Jim says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, the Golden Spikes is a joke. We'll see what the Major League Baseball thinks about Jack soon enough. Yeah. Sometimes those awards do. I agree with that. Tomorrow's program will have JC, but we'll also have Jeff Cardozo, the voice of Gator Baseball, as he'll be heading up to Clemson, South Carolina to call the series against the Gators and the Tigers, which I think the first game is 2:00 Saturday. So you got Saturday, Sunday, Monday for that regional, but should be a lot of fun. Get your questions ready for Cardozo to come on the program. as well. Don't forget tonight, the NBA Finals cranks up. Game 1 should be a good one, man. You got a lot of star power in the Mavs and the Celtics. I'll actually watch this portion of the NBA playoffs. Should be a lot of fun. And as we mentioned, Oklahoma goes for 4 straight softball titles tonight against the Lady Longhorns. Text on the Titan MR text line from Tom. He says, Shane, when you say go let Mertz play, what do you actually mean? Let your quarterback go play. Let him make the decisions. Open up the offense. Trust him. They trust him. They definitely trust him. And we know Billy's a little conservative when it comes to play calling. He wants to run the football, get all that. But I think with a guy with his knowledge of football, knowledge of the offense, understanding what defenses are trying to do to you, let him go play. That allows you to get more chunk plays when you throw the football. I think we got good enough weapons on the outside. Obviously, losing Ricky Pearsall, who I think is a top 10 receiver to ever play at Florida, is going to hurt. But we got some young dudes that can go. Let's let Mertz go play. Put the team on his shoulders and let's go. I don't know if I answered your question. Now, offensively, I think we're going to be fine. The entire season, as I said for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, is can we stop anybody? We don't have to hold them to 10 points a game, but can we slow people down, keep the ball in front of us? Can we affect the quarterback with sacks or just taking him off the spot? And can we tackle? Defense front 7 is going to be the key again this year. But I think with Mertz, let's go. Let's be aggressive. Let him come out slinging. And that will really open up our run game. And I love our running back. So hopefully that answered your question. This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. On this day in 2011, the Major League Baseball draft, which should be coming up here pretty soon, UCLA pitcher Garrett Cole was the first pick by the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he's had a pretty damn good career. I think he's been injured. He's now with the Yankees. But that's This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Kanye Run on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says Charlie Condon from Georgia, Hagen Smith from Arkansas are finalists for the Golden Spikes. I don't know what Hagen Smith plays. Is he a pitcher? I'm not sure. Charlie Condon's the kid that hit 1 million home runs. Good player. But, as much as Jack does, how do you leave him out? Just makes no sense at all. Barone says the play versus Missouri where Mertz got hurt was proof as to how hard he plays and is willing to do whatever it takes to get the W. And then he also, Kanye Rana wants to know, is he 100% recovered from that? Yeah, just a broken collarbone. Those heal pretty quickly. Obviously, we don't want any shots on that shoulder this year. But, he laid it on the line against the Missouri Tigers. No question about that. Live a healthier lifestyle with our bold, flavorful smoothies and our amazing food. Tropical Smoothie. When you eat better, you feel better. Tomorrow's program, as I mentioned, Jeff Cardozo will be on here. Get your questions ready for Gator baseball. Should be a fun. Listen, I think Clemson's the ranked 6th nationally, the 6th seed. But wouldn't it be something, man? The Gators win 2 and go to Omaha with the way the season's gone. That would be just phenomenal. I think it can happen. I think it can happen for sure. Hope you enjoyed today's program. Have a great day out there, folks, and we'll see you here, same place, same time tomorrow. Take care.